Hey Money Vikings, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to tell you how we can eat our way to health. That's right. Sounds like a big claim, but follow what I'm saying here because I think you will find this very informative and it will help you on your true wealth journey. So let's get into it. What do I mean by this? It's not just about our food budget, which is a big part of it, right? So we actually spend quite a bit of money on food. And I would say after you take into account housing and transportation, which are typically people's largest expenses, they also end up spending a lot of money on food. And it's why a lot of financial gurus will talk about, until you're out of debt, you should never see the inside of a restaurant, for example, because the food is marked up for good reason. You have a whole army of servers and preparers and cooks and real estate to pay for as you sit in a restaurant. That's why it is so much more expensive. And of course, it's pleasurable. Food is pleasurable. And so that's why I do believe a cornerstone of a true wealth life has to do with food. And that's why a lot of times on our blog on truewealth.moneyvikings.com and on our YouTube channel, over the years, we have talked about food because years ago, I realized how it's inextricably linked to wealth. And it's a very multidimensional thing, but I want to get into what research is saying is one of the best sort of diets for increased health, which then I believe translates to wealth. And that's, as you can see here, I think it's the Mediterranean diet from a lot of the research that's out there. I do want to say this is not health advice. So when you're developing your own diet plan and your own exercise plan, you need to see your doctor. That's the critical person to see, and you need to seek a certified nutritionist as well. But I just like to share what we are doing, what I believe is working, and what can work to build wealth and health. So, the other thing I want to say about a true wealth diet is that when we actually eat better, I believe we make better investing decisions. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I believe better investing decisions get made out of a good diet because I think we're thinking clearly and I think our brain is healthier. I think the other thing about a true wealth diet is that it increases the number of years that we can be productive. So it's critical to build wealth to be quite productive and effective at our jobs for many, many years. Unless we're born with a silver spoon in our mouth or some trust fund, many of us have to work for decades in order to build wealth, not just a couple of years. And in order to survive and thrive over decades, you have to think of life as a marathon and not a sprint. And so there has to be a lot of pacing ourselves and managing ourselves as we go. And a big cornerstone of that, in my opinion and in my life, is diet. So I think we all know kind of like the quote unquote bad stuff, but I like to focus on the stuff that can be very delicious, but also nutritious. In general, I like the Michael Pollan approach, where he talks about three main elements of a good, healthy diet. And he says, number one, eat real food. And surprisingly, a lot of what we're eating and what you can see in a grocery store is not real food. It's highly processed junk. And so we may think it's food because we're buying it at a grocery store. But the further that gets away from nature, that's at least the way I think about it, the further that food gets away from grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, fruits and vegetables that have come from earth, from good soil, clean water, all that kind of stuff. So the further those things have gotten away from those natural origins, they seem to be depleted of nutrition and just filled with calories. And I think a lot of food companies then end up just pumping them full of sugar and unhealthy fats as well. So we've learned a lot over the years, a lot of things that I didn't know as a kid growing up, but now you come to realize. And let me also say this, there's no perfect in my view. And, I think there should be room for people to, have the occasional splurge and to not stress about it. Because I think the more stress and restrictive people are, I think the harder it can be to sustain over the long run. And that's why I say it's really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, I think we'll be able to last longer in terms of being productive and make money. I think we'll make better investing decisions. And I just think we'll generally feel better. And if you think about it, isn't that really what true wealth is about? You know, we talk a lot about the numbers, we talk a lot about the investing strategies at Money Vikings, but there's obviously another element to feeling wealthy, and that's just feeling pretty good. And it may not feel perfect, but a diet can definitely be a part of that. So the other thing is that, as I touched on, is that food is expensive actually, and it's actually gotten quite expensive over the last few years. So I want to go into a couple things here of what I like to try to focus on to eat for health, and it's the benefits here of the Mediterranean diet. And you can check out this article at truewealth.moneyvikings.com. But I go into kind of some of the research behind the Mediterranean diet. It says the Mediterranean diet is a heart-healthy eating pattern inspired by the traditional dietary patterns of countries surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea. So you're going to think Spain, Italy, the coast of France, Greece, Lebanon. I think those types of places, parts of Northern Africa, etc. Okay, Egypt as well. All right, so here we go. Here's the 5 key elements according to health experts. So, number 1, there's an emphasis on plant-based foods. I do like occasional meat myself, and I try to just pick, chicken, fish over red meat, but I do like the occasional red meat as well. It's a personal choice. But the majority of the food should be, according to the Mediterranean diet, should be things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So that's number 1. Number 2 here, there's an emphasis on healthy fats. I think this needs to be talked about because there are definitely unhealthy fats out there which are really clogging people's arteries and creating inflammation. The worst, I believe, are these trans fats, which are basically created in laboratories and are in all kinds of foods like snack cakes and things and muffins that can sit on shelves for a long time in packaging. That's why these ultra processed oils are put into foods, is because I think it just extends their shelf life. They can sit on a shelf and they can basically sell you on the packaging, and it seems cheap, but it's just really unhealthy for us and creates a lot of inflammation. So that's the second thing, is healthy fats such as olive oil, avocado, nuts, and seeds. So the Mediterranean diet does a moderate amount of dairy products, so cheeses and yogurts, and I believe those are very good for our gut biome. A lot of new research is going into the gut-brain connection, and having a healthy gut is very important. I've done some other content on that, but that's another thing to do more research on, is the connection between a healthy gut and a healthy brain and body. Number 4 is limiting red meat. So a lot of these countries, they have red meat sometimes as part of their dishes, but I don't think it's an everyday thing. And there's a big emphasis on herbs and spices, so to flavor food rather than relying only on salt and sugar. So I think a lot of us found out that sugar in high amounts is really unhealthy for us. So here's some examples of the different foods that I try to add as much as possible. Broccoli, spinach, onions, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, etc. Fruits, oranges, strawberries, dates, apples, bananas, etc. Always try to get some healthy nuts and seeds in there, like almonds and walnuts. Try to get some good beans, peas, and legumes in there. Emphasis on whole grains. A lot of these countries, because they are by the Mediterranean Sea, there would be some fish and seafood, salmon, sardines, trout, tuna, etc. Some chicken, some eggs in there, some dairy, cheese, yogurt, and milk, and then herbs and spices such as garlic, basil, mint, rosemary, sage. And then, of course, there's the healthy fats that they talk about, things like olive oil, avocados, and avocado oil. So there you go. That is basically it in a nutshell. Here's some of the benefits from research of the Mediterranean diet. There seems to be a benefit of reduced risk of heart disease. There's improved brain function. There appears to be lower risk of cancers, better weight management, longer and higher quality lifespan. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of a life of building wealth. And, that's basically it. So, again, this is not health advice, but I'd just like to share on our channel what I am doing in order to build wealth in a multi-dimensional way, not just focusing on the budget and investing, which is definitely part of it, but there's also the health aspect, and there's the other thing about relationships, art, that other stuff that I like to add in there. So thanks a lot for watching. If you've watched to the end, please like and subscribe, make a comment. It really helps the channel if you can help us grow, and I appreciate it. We can keep pumping out some great ideas that I hope are inspirational to you and your friends and family, and just help the world a little bit. Thanks a lot.